Shalom, when the self souls by giving no praise to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushua, Ba'Shem Kadash. Double honors to the Apostle, great Mosa, and honors to you brothers doing the work that most are in truth and in sincerity. Yahweh's real name of whom the world ignorantly calls God, Jehovah, Yahweh. His real name is Yahweh. Son's true name is Yahweh Shai, and when we pray Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, meaning in, meaning down, Sham, meaning names Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai. Came across this clip, but it was the second time that I'd kind of come across something in like related to this recently, as well as something that I saw as well today. Again, just on a similar topic, it just kind of makes you think that this man is the devil, man. It's just like everything that he does is just he's just a demon, okay. And yeah, it's just like in this world, man, everything is just there to to destroy you, right? And we grab this market too intense says, arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest, because it is polluted. Now, spiritually polluted. Start off with that, right? Even the whole thing of that whole gym wear, women just walking around, especially like now it's getting hot, you start seeing all the camel toes out and everything, and it's just like nastiness, okay. It's just like have decorum. And on the one hand, when you see what this kind of cause and what it goes into, right, it just kind of makes you think as well about rebellion, right? Because the scriptures talk about let's if I can spell, yeah, talks about that, right? Also talks about it's not adorn, women pertain, that's the one, right? Also talks about what's going on, pertain. I might have pluralized it when I shouldn't have, yeah, right. So let's yeah, because it's yeah. So one of the things I was thinking about with this is scripture says speaks about modest apparel. It speaks about carrying, base women carrying themselves in a particular type of way, right? But when you look at that dress, the way these bros be dressing, right? And then it's just like completely contrary to that, right? It's First Timothy 2:9 says, in like manner also that women adorn themselves in modest apparels. Look at this word here, modest, right? Orderly, decorous, right? Which I believe that's going to be coming from decorum, right? It says, in keeping with good taste and propriety, polite and restrained, right? There ain't nothing restrained about them leggings, man. You be, in the gym trying to concentrate, right? And then especially like now, you got the ones where like they go into each cheek, right? So it's like each booty cheek is separated, and just like they ain't nothing restrained or decorous about that, okay? Of good behavior, modest, right? Well arranged, seemly modest, right? So look at this word, propriety, right? Yeah, the state or quality of conforming to conventional accepted standards of behavior or morals, right? And we go and look back into this time, right, when we're in the kingdom, and we just go and be like, yeah, man, it was wild out there, man. Women were just wearing, basically walking around butt ass naked, right? Once again, you get these new ones. Each cheek, you can see each cheek separate. You can see the camel toe, leaving nothing to the imagination. Okay, but who do we have to thank for that, man? That's that Edomite who has pushed all of this, right? And these women, being the weaker vessel, have consumed it, right, wholeheartedly, right. So let's read that again. It's First Timothy 2:9. In like manner, also that women adorn themselves in modest apparel, with shamefacedness and sobriety, not with broidered hair or gold or pearls or costly array, right? And that's it. Okay. So let's also have this is Deuteronomy 22:5. So the woman shall not wear that which pertaineth unto a man, neither shall a man put on the woman's garment. For all that do so are abomination unto Yahweh thy power, right? Because the women's supposed to be wearing dresses, right? And even more so, right? All of these synthetic chemicals that we be making, it's not we making that we be wearing, right, are contrary, right? All of these polyesters and stuff like that. It's, really was supposed to be, you know, but basically we ain't supposed to be wearing no damn plastic, okay, right? But in taking the woman out the house, right? What has Esau done? He's created a world where you've got no choice but to go to these big corporations to get your clothes. And then when you go there, guess what? It's going to be, say, 20% cotton, 20% polyester, and then whatever other nonsense, right? Which ultimately goes contrary to what the scriptures say, right? I don't think it actually says mixed fabric, does it? Yeah, let me find it on my other screen. Right. I was the spirit was actually a couple of verses down, right? It says Deuteronomy 22:11, thou shalt not wear a garment of diverse sorts, as of woolen and linen together. Right now, people maybe I remember actually one fish, right, when I was in school, right? She basically was like, oh, but this, you can't, you wear clothes are mixed with fabric, so why is it bad that I live that alternative lifestyle, right? And this is it, right? Because people will make an excuse for their for their wickedness, right? The Most High, there are certain things where it's just like, hey, as we're reading, we're in a place that's polluted, right? But there's certain things you can control, right? So they're not, because you get people that try to use this as an example, right? But the scripture says we'll go to our enemy for want of all things, right? Get that in Deuteronomy 28th chapter, right? Don't know why I didn't just go to Deuteronomy 28, but yeah, it's Deuteronomy 28 and 48, right? It says, therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord Yahweh shall send against thee in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things, right? So there are certain things where we, ultimately all things where we've got to go to this devil, okay? We in hell, right? We in captivity, right? But there are certain things that we can control and certain things that we cannot, right? The whole thing with mixed fabrics is something that's out of our control, right? Who we lay with, on the other hand, is something well within our control, right? Then he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee, right? Now, in terms of, I did just say what we wear is, is out of our control, but talking about the fabrics, right? But when you be looking into, once again, all of these leggings, all of that, super tight stuff, man, it makes no, it's not surprising, right? That when you look into it, it's bloody toxic, right? So let me play this, right? Fair use. I don't know how well that works here in the UK, but fair use nonetheless.
Some weird things on here, but this might top the list. Female dogs in polyester pants. Yeah, it wasn't a good look on them, but we learned a lot. So, researchers did a study way back in 2008 where they put polyester pants on female dogs. Why? To see if fabric type affected fertility, and it did, wildly. For a whole year, these groups of dogs were either 100% polyester, 50.
Right, and you imagine you get certain women, this is literally all they wear. Them jogging bottoms and stuff like that. I actually, was with a chick several years ago, and I remember just thinking, like, that's literally all she wears. And the thing is, she would wear it without, without, what do you call these things? Without knickers and stuff. So all of that, right, was basically, all of these chemicals were basically seeping into her system, basically. Okay, and then when I look back, I mean, she was all kind of like hormonally messed up. But I'm like, right, okay, if that was all you were wearing, no wonder, you know, you had certain issues, right?
50 cotton blend, 100% cotton or 100% wool. One group wore nothing as a control. And the dogs in the polyester, almost 75% couldn't get pregnant.
You can read it for yourself, okay?
Even with artificial insemination. And I'm going to steal your punchline. The bro doesn't think no plastic pants have to come down to get pregnant. I know. There were openings for elimination functions and the tail. But listen to this. The progesterone levels dropped.
Right. So, and this is the thing. Scriptures talk about that this man performs a diligent search, right? And even the fact that they've done the study, right, confirming it, shows that they've known this, but yet this isn't something that's in the mainstream media. Okay. In fact, I'll read from 2 Isaiah 64 and 2. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity. Right, that secret council is going into, how these elites, they be, meeting up and, they're planning stuff, right? And one of the things that they have planned is basically this: it's the idea that people won't be, able to conceive, right? Which is why they push the ubiquity community, which is why they push, basically the whole delaying parenthood and stuff like that, right? And then also the economic factors, right? That basically you get people that do want children, but it's just like, they still live at home, right? And it's just like, they ain't got no means to do it. Okay. The point that I wanted was in verse 6: as they search out iniquities, they accomplish a diligent search, both the inward thought of every one of them, and the heart is deep. Right? And this is why people ultimately they scoff, right? Because they're thinking there's no way, right, that people have basically sat down and, put all of these things together to basically cause a situation that we're in today, right? And our thing is to come back and say, no, that's where you're completely wrong, right? Because there is a way, and we've seen it. Okay, these elites have been working on this for a very, very long time, right? So let's carry on.
Meanwhile, dogs in wool and cotton had a 100% success rate getting pregnant.
Right. So, but once again, would you see all the time, right? You always see the like I said, them stupid ass leggings as an example, right? And let's not, pretend like when you look into like male boxers, I'm pretty sure there's same issues there, right? Even if she was wearing like cotton, whatever, the nick is what they made from, right? So Esau's doing all of these things on purpose, okay?
They discovered a measurable electrostatic field that formed around the reproductive organs on these dogs that were wearing polyester, and that interfered with hormone signaling. It was twice as high in the 100% poly compared with the blend, but there was no such charge on the dogs wearing cotton and wool. Now, I'm not saying your leggings are making you infertile, but if this happens in mammals, and we're mammals, maybe it's worth thinking about. Besides just fertility, do you know what happens when progesterone levels drop? That's a PMS picture. You don't sleep well, and life sucks. It's not.
Right, and would you hear, once again, when you hearing all of these things, like what are you, and then sorry, let me try that again. Right, you're hearing this guy say this, right, and you're thinking about girls you've been with, girl that you are with, right, and this is just one aspect because it's an all out attack, right. This man, right, he's coming from all different angles. He's coming from, what you wear, what you listen to, what you watch, right. What water you drink, right? What you drink out of, right? Because you may be like, look, man, I ain't gonna drink that tap water, man. I'm gonna go and get me some bottled water, but then the bottles have issues, right? So it's just ultimately why, I don't think I actually did finish this, right? Micah 2:10, arise and depart, for this is not your rest, because it is polluted, right? It shall destroy you even with the sword destruction, right? Which is why, we always yearn for the kingdom of heaven, because everything's killing you here. I'm quote laughing, but it's just like, yo, this is a mess, man. Okay.
Not just polyester in those pants, as they're often mixed with spandex and chemically treated and layered right over hormone-sensitive areas like the pelvis, groin, and the thighs. Natural fibers, people, not just for tree huggers, for hormone huggers too. Let's get smart.
Yeah. Right. And once again, when you're looking at how you get certain, you know, people, certain women, they'll be wearing these things, right, without any protection, without any layering in between the two things, right? So then all you're getting is that, those chemicals basically seeping in, right? So similar thing, this article more than yeah, it also says thread carefully, your gym clothes could be leaching toxic chemicals, the Guardian, right? I just looked at the some of the other articles, right? Because it's very easy to say, you know, it's very easy to say, oh, that's just one article or whatever. But it's like, okay, cool. Right, here's another, right? And another. Right, November 20 January 22 says, 2022 says a new test find toxic forever chemicals, and this is the worst thing, in bedding, right? Because so then it's a thing, you get people that want to sleep naked, or basically just boxers or whatever, right? Then all of that stuff, and it's just, once again, it's just another reminder of why this man's got to go. Okay, this man's got to go. Now, when we call this man the devil, that he needs to be destroyed, you get people try looking us funny, right? People want to hate on the Israelites, but this man is doing all this. Now, this Edomite is doing all this, right? In bedding, yoga pants, and other textiles. But you know who is able to afford, say, the more expensive one? It ain't Jay, right? Because he ever tried, comp linen, when it gets hot, I try, what do you call it? Try, linen and stuff, because that's what it's kind of designed for, right? But you see the price, and that's like, yo, but the plastic ones, the polyester trousers or whatever, what have you, right, is significantly cheaper. Right, so what do you think most people will lean to? They'll lean to the significantly cheaper clothing. Okay. So even on that, let me grab this. Is Isaiah 24:5, right? It says the earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, right? So this whole earth is defiled, right? From because it's you're not it's oh man, Salakia. Look, I'm just really thinking about it. It's like you can do your best to watch what you eat. You can do your best to watch what you drink. But then when you just want to go to bed and relax, even your bed is leaking toxic forever chemicals into you. Man, it's mad. This place has just got to go. Right? So the earth also, Isaiah 24:5, the earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. Right. So as always, Lord's all that was edifying, right? Once again, just a reminder why we need the Lord, and why, we need the Lord to come back soon, right? In fact, I'll end on that, man. This is Matthew 24:22. It says, and except those days should be shortened, they should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Right. So yeah, as always, Lord's all that was edifying. Till next time we say Shalom.